you're here. We just wanted to have a conversation, and basically, I said this to Dwayne this week. I'm like, we're going to pretend we're just at the coffee shop, but there's just people looking at us.
That's perfect.
So I don't know how vulnerable this will go. I don't know where we'll go with it, but if you hear something that Dwayne says that encourages you, cheer him on. I think it's a big deal when someone comes up and shares their story. And it's a story of, what God's done in our lives and all that sort of stuff. Look, tonight, let's just start it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how, what you're doing with your life now. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so at the moment I have 2 beautiful kids. I'm a single father, and I'm working in Sydney as a firefighter, and I also do Army Reserve work. So I normally work a week on and a week off. So I'm in Sydney for work for a week, and then I'm at home with the kids for a week.
Nice. Do you like putting out fires?
I actually prefer rescuing cats. Yeah. It's more fun and less dangerous.
So what's funny, we were talking this week, I'm like, don't make jokes, don't make stereotypes, but yeah, you do. You climb trees and rescue cats.
Yes, we do rescue cats.
Put out fires,
yeah.
You obviously
all
go
the things you think
to
of,
the gym.
we do. Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. I'm really excited to hear part of your story, and I know that, it's good to know that you're just a normal human being saving the world in that area. I think a lot of times people think if we are on stage and we're talking, it's kind of like that person must be working at the church or anything like that, but you're just a guy figuring it out, and here you are.
Yep.
Tell us how you got to this point of, walking with God, or just tell us about your life, hardships, home life. How'd you get here?
So I guess I'll try and start from where I came from to getting to Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
And it's been a long journey. So I grew up in Melbourne, and it wasn't always easy. I grew up not in a church home environment at all. My parents split up when I was less than 12 months old, so that was a bit difficult. Luckily, I had 2 older brothers, so I sort of could get to see all the mistakes they made and not do them. But yeah, it wasn't easy as well, because my mum, she repartnered, and my stepfather, he wasn't always a good human being. He at times was I would say abusive, alcoholic, and all those kinds of things. So it was really hard growing up in that environment. So I was always just trying to be away, outside, running away. Yeah. And I remember just that when I was younger, whenever I'd run away from home or I was not inside, I would always just pray to God and I had no experience of God, and just be like,
wow,
God, this can't be real. This can't be my life. I was just a kid, and I'm just in the thick of it, thinking how do I get out of here?
Yeah.
So luckily enough, fast forward till I started high school, my mother finally separated from him, and then he was gone, and then on to teenagehood. And then moving on from there, my mum wasn't always present. She was working as a nurse, night shift, so I had ultimate freedom, which wasn't good for a teenager.
Yeah.
And I hung out with the wrong crowd. I was exposed to sex at a young age, drugs, violence. I saw some really, really nasty things, and that's what led me towards joining the military when I was 18. I just wanted to get away from home, and I thought, this is my out. It's an adventure, more structure, discipline. So it was probably the best decision I could make at that point in my life. And that brought me to the Army, and then I got posted to Sydney out of the Air Force Base there. Had a really good time. Then I was at Holsworthy, and then I got into the fire brigade. I had a young family at the time, and I was sick of travelling and going away. And my ex-partner and I at the time, we wanted to get out of Sydney just after COVID or during, and she said, what about Port Macquarie? And I said, anything's sort of better than here. I'm done with Sydney. As a Melbourne boy, I just didn't really like the city very much. Yeah. And then that's where I got to this point of being in Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
And then following on that, what brought me to Heart House was my partner and I were going through a lot of marital issues, and we separated. So that was really difficult. But then after that, I went through another really traumatic thing. So I had to deal with divorce and then death, and it was just really horrible. And at the time, I felt alone, but I knew I wasn't alone. But I just sought counsel, probably from the wrong people at the time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't probably as open as I could be. And I only just moved to Port Macquarie, so it was really hard. I didn't really have much community up here, and I just remember like praying to God about it, and He just plainly said to me like, "Why haven't you joined a church?" I remember Him clearly saying to me like, "You're literally on a boat without paddles. What what are you doing?" And then I thought, "Oh, you're right." And it was really hard at the time because I had 2 kids and I was on my own, and I'm just like, how am I going to find a church, and how am I going to just rock up to a church and just like, hey,
hey, here I am with all my mess.
yeah, exactly. Here I am with all my mess, and I'm really hurting, and I just want some help. But luckily enough, I found Heart House online, and I saw Sam and Kirsty, you guys talking about a lot of things, and I could just see your guys' heart at the time, and I thought, you know what, that's it, I'm going, and I rocked up, and I've been here ever since. So that was about 2 and a bit years ago.
Yeah, wow. First, there's a lot to unpack on that. First of all, thankful that you popped by and popped in, and you're a part of it. We're going to get into that misconception. You talked about, here I am, I've got some mess. But I just wanted to highlight, I found it interesting that, and this is a cultural thing, I know this wouldn't be just for you, but even if we don't believe in God, or we don't know God, or we haven't found God for real in our hearts yet, it's amazing how, as the human race, we default to like praying to this God. Or saying when you were young, God help me, surely this isn't normal. And I often think about that when there's tragedy around the world, people that don't believe in God start to say, God, can you fix this? Can you? So it's weird to me, and it's interesting that, at a young age, you didn't know what you were doing or who you were talking to, but you're saying, God, surely this can't be normal, help me in this. And, life develops. I obviously know that along this journey, you've found God for real. So you must have started a relationship with Him. And this is the topic I wanted to talk about tonight, because there's a lot of misconceptions around, things you just wish you knew before you became a Christian. Or things you knew before you said, all right, I'm going to be part of whatever this is. And I know that, this week you mentioned to me, one of the hardest roadblocks is thinking you have to be perfect or have it all together to become a Christian or to find God. Explain that to me, what you meant by that.
I think it's even hard even when you're a Christian sometimes, when you're going through the hard times and you're thinking that you need to have it all together. But before I became a Christian, in the mess, when I was having all my marital issues, and I was going to church at the time, and I remember thinking, like, I can't come in here. Like, there's all these people throwing their hands up, singing all these songs. Like, I'm so out of place here. I'm the odd one out. And that just wasn't the case. But it was just all in my head, to be honest. Like, that's what it truly felt like. And I think, you don't have to have it all together. You can come dressed as you are, who you are. And the church is so welcoming if you just let them be, instead of just being in your shell and just thinking, oh, they're staring at me, or because you don't have to believe to belong, and it's so true with that statement.
And I think there's sometimes where our worst own enemies, where we're portrayed that all the perfect people get together on a Sunday and we're all put together. But even as the pastor, I don't think I'll ever have it all together. I just think humanity's messy and we're all in the mess. The only thing we do have is 2 things in common. That's each other and God's wonderful grace. And I think the message has to be not preached, get your life together. It's like, get healthy, then go to the doctor. Get fit, then go to the gym. I think this should be the place where, we're in here and we don't know. We don't believe. We don't understand. We are sore. We are tired. We are messy. We have got stuff we got going on. And I think for us, our heart is to show that, you don't have to be perfect to be part of this. You can well and truly belong before you believe. And about that believing part of it, because obviously it's open, and I know this week we talked about this misconception of like rushing in to get in. You know what I mean? Like, gotta give my life to God, and it's like this panic sometimes for people. But you were sharing with me about the beautiful thing about no rushing and ask questions. Like, it's okay to come into church or to God and just say, God, I don't know why this happened in my life. I don't know what's going on here, and ask questions. There's no rush. There's no, you have to do it on your second Sunday. Like, my wife sat in church for 8-9 months before she said, you know what, I think I'm going to give this a go. What was your personal journey like with that? Were you like, did you rush straight into it, or were you like, are you still like trying to figure it out? Tell us.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. It wasn't straight away. I remember I was just thinking, I'm not going to just come in here and just give my life to something of this magnitude just because I want to fit in. Just for my own personal like experience. And I had a lot of questions. I really did. I was like, well, what happens when I go to heaven? Or just all these little things. And I remember going to like a night school every Wednesday night, and it was really refreshing for me, the church that I was going to at the time, because I think about 50% of us weren't actually Christians. We hadn't put our hands up and weren't baptized and all those other things. And I was like, wow, there's actually people out here who, are taking this for real and aren't just saying, oh yeah, I've been here for 2 months and I just want to fit in and say that I'm a Christian, when really like deep in your heart you haven't got most of the answers, like all the questions answered yet. So
And I know I wanted to highlight that maybe for people online, maybe you're here tonight. Our agenda as a Christian, and you're obviously a Christian, is not to just convert people in the moment, overnight, if the service is right. Our goal is that people really find God.
Yeah, 100%.
And if that takes a month, 5 years, a lifetime, then that should be the goal of Christians. And I think that has to be highlighted, because so many people think, well, once I get in, I'll be in. And we believe here, you're already in just because you're human.
Yeah.
Now, the next step is take your time. Because I think religion's destroyed the world, and I think excellence, trying to be perfect, all that's destroyed the world. And I think it's okay to go, I don't get this, I don't understand this, or maybe I don't even believe this, or I did believe and I lost faith in it, and go, you know what, God, I'm just going to give this a chance in a safe place and ask questions. And I'm sure everyone can agree with me tonight, we don't have an agenda to convert people to being a Christian. Our agenda is that people find God for real.
Yeah.
A God that's real in your life when you go home, when you're in your kitchen, when you're in bed at night, you feel that peace. It's beyond a physical square cube we're in. It's a spiritual, it's emotional, it's a mental thing that we all discover. And Hard House exists for you to come and ask questions and take your time. And I think that's an important point to point out. That's one of the things we wish we knew before we were Christians, is that you don't have to just go, well, I'll do this overnight. Take your time. And
one thing I found with that as well, if you're coming into church and you have that line of thinking, then you'll probably just feel God at church. You won't feel God at home. And it's just really important. You want to be in relationship with Jesus 24/7. You don't want to just feel it when you go into church. So taking your time just gives you that extra clarity and just gives you that peace. So
and I mean, you agree. I mean, we talk a lot, and it's I've said this to you before. I don't wake up every day pretending that I know God. What a waste of time. I genuinely found God. He transformed my life. He's transformed yours. He's transformed my marriage, my kids. And now my only hope is that other people can find that. And he's not some God that's ashamed of us and angry and, go get it right and then you can come into this special holy place. It's like, no, this is meant to be the light of the world. You come in messy, you come in dirty, you come in asking questions, you come in with the wrestle if God's actually real or not. And he'll show up in your life at the right time. And we've dedicated our lives to this, right? It's not, this isn't a game to us. This isn't like, well, I'll just pretend and make it. Like, we genuinely want people to find God. And if that takes time, we're going to be the most patient church on the planet. You take your time to figure that out. I know that you mentioned this week, one of the most important things is also surrounding yourself with people, which is important on Sundays. But I wanted to touch on a misconception, and we'll get to this one in a second. What is your day-to-day like? Like, I know you found God now. What does it look like? Because I know we mentioned like this misconception. You might laugh at this, but it's like, once I find God, my life will be perfect. Oh, maybe we're a more mature church. I thought everyone would be like, yeah, that's right. No. I thought that when I was young. I was like, you know what? I'll just give my life to God and all my problems will go away. We know that's not true. So what does your day-to-day look like, and what's it look like since you found God?
In short, it's just changed me dramatically. Like if you talk to anyone who knew me 10 years ago, I'm just a completely different person. I've become a better father, a better friend, communicator. But it hasn't always been easy. Like I've done work with God as well, whether it's been like counselling or talking to elders or yourself, being in community. So yeah, it hasn't been easy. There's times where I didn't want to be vulnerable, and I didn't want to be honest and open, and I wanted to shelter my sin or hide all my mess. So that part can be hard, and sometimes I just didn't feel like it today. I'm like, God, I don't want to be a nice person. Like, I like not nice, but
big misconception right there. Some days I don't feel like this, right?
Some guy cut me in line, and why? But it's not. It's not always easy, but God just gives you the fruits of the Spirit, patience and peace, and it'll just come at the right time, I feel. But my day-to-day wrestle with God, or how I communicate and how we spend time, is very random. I know we talked about the gym. I'll listen to worship music at the gym, and some people think that's weird. I'll do, hours of cardio and just have the Bible on play, and I'm listening to this boring voice, but I can just zone out and just hear it, because sometimes I don't feel like reading at night, and sometimes I read the Bible and I'll just fall asleep. So, and there's a lot of time I have travelling to and from Port Macquarie to Sydney, so there is a lot of podcasts and things like that. But it's just different. But I also love connecting with God through people, whether it's through coffee. That's the time I find for me that I just really enjoy, and I'm just really close. So
it's important to highlight, because we're humans still when we find God. Like, we don't ascend to the heavens and we're angels and everything's perfect, but there's this life we still have to live. There's trials we still have to face. I'm sure you've still got struggles in your life, and it's no secret. And I do too, and most of us, if we're honest, we do. But it's God's changing us. So the circumstances are the same, the trials are the same, the troubles are the same, but God changes us. And I love that. You said, I've still got stuff going on in my life, but I'm a better dad now. Because God's changing us, not changing life. And I want to encourage someone out there tonight that might have thought misconception that if I find God, I follow God, my life is flawless and perfect. The reality is God won't change your life. He just changes you. And it makes you better at doing life. It makes you better at approaching life. And it's a beautiful thing. That's what makes the story so beautiful. Look, I want to ask you one more question, and then we're prepared to close. But what do you see, like, we know that we're not always going to be on fire for God, and some days we want to give up, some days we don't care. And it's just being honest about humanity. But what do you see now that God's actually using your life for? Like, what's he done now? It's like, I haven't just come to church and I'm a messy person and now I'm following God. Obviously, he starts to use your life. You know what I mean? He starts to allow your life to be bigger than the four walls and all that sort of stuff. How do you see on a day-to-day basis God using your life now to help other people know him, or even for yourself to know him more?
I think he's just given me a lot of confidence and kept me also accountable. Like you talk about being on fire for God. Yeah, at times I think, like I said, you just can't be bothered. But God at the moment is just put me in church and also given me opportunities to lead a team on the doors. So it's kept me accountable, like coming to church. Because some people I find with faith, like they just don't want to be accountable sometimes. They think, like I can just do how I'm feeling sometimes. But having that community or having something like that, it does keep the fire and the consistency in your faith. It does, So I really enjoy how God's just opened that door. Like I didn't even ask for it. He's just done it for me. So and also on that, even with church and with friends, and giving me opportunities. I'm looking at doing Christian counselling. So I'm hoping one day I can help the church in through that way. So I'm really excited doing that. That's mid-year that starts. So I'll do a diploma and then go on to a bachelor's degree, and we'll see where that takes me. So
amazing.
But it's just the growth is just amazing. Like I can't explain it.
And I think that's important, because we're going to do a speed round of misconceptions in a second. God will use your life where it's at now. And he gives you purpose. It's beyond just finding him. He then begins to use you, and you have purpose, and you feel like you're part of it. And I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can hear it, is that when you commit to something, it's harder to break.
Yeah.
I'm committed to this. I'm committed to the lives in this room. I'm committed to the family. It's not like it's a job or it's work and I'm, being part of this big thing that's happening. I'm committing to seeing everyone in this room make it, myself included. And I think it highlights the beauty that God uses a bunch of broken, messed up, crazy people and makes this beautiful orchestra of us changing the world or changing the world around us or showing people they're loved or dropping off meals or praying people out. Like, it's all part of this beautiful thing that he does accept us in the mess, but then he uses that mess to change the world. And I can see right now that mess of your past will be used in your counseling for your future.
Yeah, of course.
And that's only God can do that. Only God can do that. Before we do the speed round, is there anyone out there tonight that might be listening? You want to encourage them? Maybe they're a new Christian. Maybe they're not even a Christian. Maybe they're watching online. What's something you'd like to encourage them with about things they wish they knew before becoming Christian? Or maybe they got tricked into being Christian and they didn't know what it was really about. What's something you could just encourage them with?
I know we've talked a lot about vulnerability. I think that's a really big thing. Like tonight I was a bit nervous coming on stage, but just being vulnerable and just saying yes. I know a lot of past sermons we've talked about just saying yes and just putting your hand up and God using you, because he's never going to give you anything that you can't do. And when people used to say that before I became a Christian, I used to think, oh, what are you talking about? Like, you're just full of it, Like, if I'm honest, like you just say that. It's just a throwaway line. But in saying that, like even tonight or working on the door, or serving on the door and doing these things, like God's just opened all these doors, and I just think all I did was just say yes. Like I don't know. Like I just got it. But yeah, it's just crazy. So I just encourage people just to be vulnerable and say yes. And God's not this big scary person. If you knew, He's not gonna push too hard. Like we talk about here, we're not trying to just convert you. We're just trying to let you know that you're loved, and that's what God's doing as well for you. So He just loves you and wants a relationship. So if you're new and you're seeking, just be open. Just be very open, because it's amazing what He can do for you.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, let's just be honest. God already knows the real us.
Yeah.
Like, He knows the real us. He knows what we're doing behind closed doors, church. Sorry to tell you. He knows what we're doing outside of this room. So we might as well let Him work on our lives while we're here. He already knows. And you know what? He's not afraid. He's not ashamed. And He's not like, you disgusting humans. He's like, I could use that.
Yeah.
I could help, those that are going through divorce. I can help someone who's been through divorce, help them with that. I can help people that are with sickness and got through sickness. I can help them with that. And He starts to use the very pain, the very sickness, the very hurt, the very thing that the world and was meant to hurt us and take us out. And God starts to use that as your greatest asset, your greatest weapon, your greatest way to help the people around you. And so it becomes this weakness becomes strength because of His grace.
Yeah.
And I know that you said to me, I walked into church thinking, well, it must be the pastors at the front, all the people volunteering that are close to God. And surely me sitting at the back, there's no way I'm close to God. And you said something that you just wanted to encourage us with about the difference between those that are on stage and at the back or just walked in for the first time. How do you get close to God?
How do you get close? I think it's just what I said before, just saying yes, or just being in His presence. Like, if there's any people out there who put either me or Sam or anyone on a pedestal, like, that's not how God sees anyone. Yeah. He sees us all equal, and He just wants relationship. Like, that's all He wants. He just wants your heart, and He just wants your love. Yeah. So I wouldn't try and compare other people, because God doesn't do that. And any mess that you have, He's not concerned about that. Yeah. You can bring your mess, and it's fine. It's
true. We touched on it lightly, but that's a big misconception. That there's some pecking order in the church, and the stage people must be closer than the guy sitting downstairs or at the back. Yeah. But the reality is, I think God's wanting to be close to everyone. And He's sitting right next to you now. He's sitting with you in your lounge room if you're watching online. Yeah, God is everywhere. He's not just here. He's not just on the stage. He was here before we got here. He's going to be here after we leave. And He'll follow you in the car. So God is not looking for perfection. He's trying to help you find purpose.
Yes. And
He'll use your imperfection to find that purpose. An amazing quote I heard from someone from our church last week. We're just talking about stuff, and you're talking about serving God in all these different areas. And he said to me, he goes, what his old pastor where he used to live used to always say, and he was telling me this last week. He said, you will struggle to get all of Port Macquarie into church, but you can guarantee you can get the whole church into Port Macquarie. Yeah. And he had used this concept about, we can't get the whole city in here, but we can take this whole in here into the city. And I just want to encourage anyone out there tonight about the pecking order of, well, it must be the pastors or the special people. There's no special people in this house. There's just a bunch of broken misfits and people that have been vulnerable, trying to figure it out. But the message I'm trying to say is tonight is that, and Dwayne, has done this in firefighting and military and all those things he does. God will use your life where you are right now. Like wherever you are, no matter your career, no matter your job, no matter where you're heading, where you go after this, God can use your life to impact people through love, through kindness, through inviting people over for a meal, through being nice to the person at the shops. God uses people outside of the four walls. And sometimes I'd be okay if we just all laid on the floor and none of us could raise our hands and we're all exhausted. But on Monday, we were showing people what God's love actually looks like. And it's just the biggest punch to the face to religion that it's all about the Sunday. No, it's about the Monday, and it's about us going out there and going, we were refreshed, rejuvenated, and now my purpose starts tomorrow morning. Yeah. And everyone in this room, you need to hear this tonight. Your purpose starts tomorrow morning. It's not now. It's when you go out there and interact with all the other humans and all the other mess and all the other things. Yeah. And don't think that God's disqualified you or you're not good enough. You are more than good enough to show people love, and God will use you. You don't have to be perfect. He'll use you where you're at. I want to read this for maybe new Christians in the house. Maybe you're watching online, maybe you're asking questions, maybe you know God. But I just wanted to remind us about what Jesus said in Matthew 11:28. And it says here, "Come to me, all who are weary." Now, we'll talk about this. It's like, don't come to me, all that are strong and got it all together and they've made it, all the perfect people. But it actually says in the next line, that are also burdened. So Jesus is like, hey, come to me if you're weary, you're burdened, you got stuff going on. And his next line is, and I will give you rest. It says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, which is what we got to do every day. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and I will find rest. This is my favorite part of the verse. I will find rest not for your bodies, not for your mind, not for just this, but I'll find rest for your soul. And if there's anything I want to be known for, and you know this, is that when people are around us, they know there's something different. Their souls are at rest. Doesn't matter how crazy the world is, doesn't matter how crazy our lives are, doesn't matter how messy it is, we find this eternal souling rest that's just like peace in God. It's one of the biggest misconceptions I think people need to hear is like they think, well, my life will have to be still and perfect and I'll find rest. But I think in the chaos, God gives us rest. That's what the difference is. Then he says here, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I just think for anyone out there tonight, maybe you do know God, maybe you're like Dwayne, maybe you're not sure, maybe I don't know what the story is. But I just want to encourage you that God's waiting for you. He's not afraid of you. He's not ashamed of you. He's not wanting you to get it all together and then he'll eventually start to get into your life. But he's just waiting for you to bring your burdens, bring your weariness, bring your tiredness, bring your mess, bring, all the stuff we've gone through, death, divorce, all the mess. And then he just starts to show us what peace on our souls look like, what our lives can be used to help people around us. And I think your story is a perfect representation of that. God can take you from ashes and turn it into beauty. And I don't know about you, church, but I'm encouraged by Dwayne's story just for the main reason that he didn't grow up in a church and have it all together, but he found God. And we always say this is not how we start, it's always how we finish. And so appreciate you sharing your heart tonight. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap it up?
I'll leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
I won't take any more of your time. I'll leave it at that.
Well, we appreciate you, and we're thankful for you, and thank you for sharing your story. Can we put it up for Dwayne right now?